And we laid the path to their victory, because had they not succeeded, they would have been incarcerated in the ICC, both of them. Kenyans saved them. What I saw, Lynn, we have a problem here. Because I didn't see a cartel. I saw two people decide that Kenya can go to hell. They are more important than Kenya. That's what I saw. And within no time, we were fighting. Because I said we had an understanding that you will repent.
So there was no financial gain for you?
No.
You're putting two people together and all you want is peace in the country?
Never. If anybody can say that I got a financial gain out of Ruto government, no. In fact, if there's anything, they took away anything they found that I may have gotten from previous regimes. SGR, I began it in 2008, was a private project. Nothing to do with taxpayers' money. From Mombasa to Malaba. The cost was about 60 billion, 55 to 60 billion shillings. That became a project of almost 400 billion between Mombasa and Nairobi, halfway, not even the full distance. And this will never pay itself off. This is a man who's been unable to pass. In the 2 years, he's an opportunity for budget.
Yeah.
A finance bill, revenue raising measures. He's already a failure. Normally, if you can't pass one, you're booted out of office. This is now 2, right? But Isitoshe, it's like he doesn't get it. Or if he doesn't get it, he's deliberately, the law, the constitution means nothing to him.
These protests have been funded by you, Ford Foundation. Do you think our leaders blind to the fact that people can protest with no one funding them?
If I could pay them 10,000 shillings each to go out and do it, I'll do it.
Yes.
What's wrong with it?
Nothing.
It is in our constitution.
Yes.
So what is it? If they think I'm funding, what is the crime? Arrest me for what? Who? William Ruto arrest me for doing what? Funding Gen Z. Oh my God. Aje kama jana.
On the who are we, Jimmy, who are you? Because there are people who can't quite trace who you are. So if our audience were to understand who are you, so that we see, can we trust this person that you say you are? Who are you?
I'll tell you, Lynn.
Hello and a warm welcome to today's edition of LNS. It's not rebuilding, it's not restoration, but we said, this year we are doing things 360 because there's no part of our lives that we are going to leave out. My guest today has been highly requested on the show. I've waited for him for a while now, but you know what they say, patience pays. And after we did our show with Willis, on the comment section, a lot of you asked for him. And I'm happy to say that he's here. He will be talking to us about a lot of things politically that we need to understand. And to be honest, I don't think there was any other person that I could have talked to. All the conversations we are going to have, the questions I have, they were well targeted and they were well directed towards him because I feel like he has the answers. And I want you, as you watch, please let me know on the comment section what your take home will be. But before I can let him introduce himself, a girl has to pay a couple of bills here. I want to say thank you so much to our amazing partners, including Tap Tap Send. So if you are watching this from diaspora and you want to send money to your loved ones back at home, why don't you try Tap Tap? And also by using my code Lynn, you are able to get 10% cash back off your first ever transaction. And also to say thank you to my team. I know you guys, you are watching us. We are heading to 1 million subscribers. Maybe by the time this episode goes out, we'll be at 1 million subscribers, but we could not have done this without you. Thank you so much for being active participants of our work. And of course, thank you to my team. You get to see me in front of the camera, but this whole recording, the production takes an entire village. So thank you so much to each and everyone who contributes to making sure we continue bringing you stories that are able to impact our lives. And of course, now without further ado, please allow me to let my guest today introduce himself. Sir, how are you?
Very good, Lynn. Very happy to be here.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Welcome to LNN.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe for the people who are catching you for the very first time, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Jimi Wanjigi, and I want to be your president. I don't think I need to say anything else.
Yes.
That's it.
Why do you want to be our president?
Because I can change this country for the better. In totality. I'm what you call a change agent. Those people that just dramatically change the way something is done. And we have the ethos for it. We know what to do. We know how to do it. And we have clarity about the future greatness of this nation.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why. As simple as such.
Very simple.
First things first, thank you for being here. It's an honor to finally have this conversation with you. And of course, condolences about your dad.
Thank you very much.
And he left quite a legacy.
Yes, he did.
You know, a lot of people might not even know he was the brain behind the free primary education.
Yes.
That was later implemented by President Mwai Kibaki.
Yes.
When you go back and you think about your father, according to you, what did he always want to do for this country, and what legacy did he leave behind?
I can tell you, those are very big shoes to fit, because my father believed that God's purpose for a human being was to live heaven here on earth. Heaven here on earth. Very much like our Lord's Prayer. So he lived a life to live for everybody that came near him, or anybody that he impacted, or anybody that he found in his life, to leave a place in heaven here on earth for them. So you talked about free primary education. My father was probably the first one that planted something called macadamia nuts in this country. My father wrote the first book in Kikuyu in 1960 on coffee growing, because that's when the African could grow coffee on their land. And he planted nearly every coffee tree on African land in central Kenya that you know, right up to Meru. My father started something called ICDC. So a lot of these so-called industries that you've seen, he was there. My father was the first African director of settlement, and he settled 1 million acres for Kenyans. Never took even 1 acre for himself, not even half an acre for himself. My father, I can go on.
Yes, go on.
Began circles. You know this word called circle? Yes. My father was the first person that targeted something called 1 million tourists in Kenya, when we were doing about 200,000 to 300,000, setting a business target for a ministry called tourism. My father began a very simple thing that today became a very giant thing called Juakali Industries out here near Gikomba. That was him. Gikomba market, he's the one who began it, the one that is being demolished by Ruto. So everything that he did was about bettering the life of those that came around him. That is what he knew. Today, he has left a lot of people that he served with a lot of real estate, properties here in Nairobi, that he helped them buy through a cooperative spirit. Kamkunji Women's Group, Skuma Wiki. Right? Today, because we are now dealing with this estate, they only entrusted him with the titles, right, as the patron.
Yeah.
And you look at the properties that they have acquired in Nairobi, phenomenal. Phenomenal. And this he impacted not only in Nairobi where he served, but to Kenyans all over. That was his heart. That was his being. And to us as a family, that's how we grew up. Knowing that you are only here to add value to somebody else's life. To add value, right? to make them have a better place here on earth than you have found them. So we live that purpose. We activate that purpose. And a lot of what we have done, even myself in my own journey of life, has been the same. To impact in as big a magnitude as you can, a change agent for the better, for everybody's life.
Yeah.
That is what we're about.
That's what you are about. But Kenya has a way of rewarding its leaders, because even I'm pretty sure even a lot of people who will watch this might not have known that about your father. And we have a way of rewarding people who genuinely impacted our nation. How was your father rewarded? Because when we go back and we look at someone like Wangari Maathai, we had to name a road after her. Later on in life, we humiliated her, we shamed her, right? Is that something we do as a nation? And how was your father also rewarded?
There were very many things that were named after him. We have a secondary school after his name. We have very many things under his name. But he never looked for that. He very much believed, for example, something that I saw Mwai Kibaki believe in, that things are not named after you when you're alive. Never. It is something that one posthumously, one can remember somebody fondly and name them, but not in life.
Yeah.
Not
in life.
Now, the problem we have in this nation is that if you are extraordinary in any manner or form, there are too many people, I don't want to call them leaders, I want to call them politicians, who, because you are too advanced in your thinking and in your ways, they bring politics to try and damn you. Case in point is Wangari Maathai. Here's a lady who saved our forests, who planted trees. She got vilified. She saw thuggery here in Karura Forest here. Moi ridiculed her at Uhuru Park, calling her a woman who does not respect men and asking on women to deal with her, right? And yet she got a Nobel Peace Prize. She even became an MP and got removed after one term. So we have a way of remembering people negatively rather than positively. She impacted our lives just like my father. And we are not really showing up our heroes as we should. We are not bringing them out. You know, Lynn, in a lot of the campaign that I was doing in 2022, I went around a lot of universities to the young people. And I would ask a simple question. Tell me who made Kenya? And you know, I had a lot of people answer and these are university kids, who would answer in ways that would shock you. Some would say our fathers, some would say Mzungu, some would say, and I'll tell them, don't Google. They don't even have that historical knowledge of who made the borders of Kenya. If you start asking them about who was Mau Mau, our first struggle against colonialism, many of them would tell you, were they not bandits? Because that's what they were taught. We have a problem in this country that was implanted in us intentionally, that we must not have knowledge of who we are. Because if we know who we are, we will know our greatness. And let me tell you, Lynn, this greatness is our ethos. You go to America today, one of the things you're taught is the American history. So you understand what American history is about. Kenyan history is not taught. Our heroes are not shown. Because even our books were put in a manner at early age, right, to skewer our history. So we don't understand how great we are. This is a country that became a colony in 1920. But in 1897, the Mzungu came here and carved up Africa and carved up Kenya according to their wishes and whims in the Bismarck Conference. And they decided on the name called Kenya, not us. They put us all together, not us. They in 1920 came and colonized us. But what they didn't tell you is that when they came here, the African was making iron ore. Did you know that?
We found out the other day.
We had iron ore. We were making iron ore. We had clothing. Contrary to what they tell you that we had sheep, we had skins of goats on ourselves. We had clothing. We had a culture, right? We had our religion. We had teaching. People were taught through poetry. We had initiations, right? We were strong. They came here to take away our identity. And they did so successfully. Today, a Kenyan doesn't know who he is. They took our names. They took our religion. They even have thrown away our culture, right? And they've made us think that they are greater than we are. All right? We thank them for one thing, which is the education system, right? And even there, they've tried to make sure that it is only in part that it is given. Here, we were in shock to see somebody different to us. Somebody who spoke a different language. Somebody who seemed like they knew. Somebody who at the end of the day had a stick that took out fire, a bullet, right? So we feared them. We went to the war in Burma, incorporated by them to be the front line of infantry soldiers, so that we are killed first before them. That was where people realized, this person actually dies like us. You mean they bleed like us?
Yes.
We had never even seen their blood. We didn't have the internet those days. So we had no knowledge. And it is from there that people got courage to come and take on the great British Empire that was at the time governing a multitude of 500 million people. Lynn, 500 million people. Right? The largest empire in the world. And the only war they had for independence, for liberation, for coming back for their land was in Kenya. No other colony, Kenya. So that is our greatness. That even if we didn't have guns, even if we didn't quite know what we were dealing with, right?
Yes.
We stood up to fight that British Empire and removed them. But along the way, we lost our identity, right? We lost our identity. And this is what we now have got to start reclaiming. Who are we? What are we about? Right? Because without that ethos, without that knowledge, we will not know the potential of our greatness. What we know is that we have amazing capacity. We love each other. Kenyans love each other.
We do.
We do. We do. Okay? We are great at work. We are great in clubs. We enjoy each other. We enjoy who we are, but we don't know who we are. We have not gotten our true identity because it had been so adulterated. And this is about time now that we go back to understanding our greatness, where we came from, what we are about, because we have a journey of greatness beyond the borders of Kenya that we must fulfill. You know, they say, if you look at anthropology, the world began in this nation of ours. We are the cradle of mankind. If we are the cradle of mankind, God wished us for a purpose that we have yet to fulfill. If we gave birth to every human being, then you can't tell us that was our only purpose and it ended there. There's so much more to achieve. And we are getting there.
Good.
But Lynn, now that you know that kind of discussion,
Yeah.
I can talk about this for hours.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not the only topic you brought
That
me
we
here
have.
for.
But let's talk about Kenya.
Yes.
Because people are asking, what's so special about Kenya, right? You have the British Army, they have their base. You have the UN setting up some of their offices here. People talk so highly about Kenya. What is it about Kenya? Why don't we talk so highly about Uganda, this and that? Why Kenya? What is it that we carry?
I'll tell you
Yes.
in a nutshell. And that's a very good question. Because when you look at Africa and the way it was colonized, this is not the only place the British were. The British was also in South Africa.
Yeah.
They were also in Nigeria. Now, the way the West looks at any place is what is their geographical, and spiritual position. Right? Spiritual and geographical. So in Africa, they carved us into what they call the cross. North to south, east to west. So north being Egypt, right? That's why you find for the Muslim nations, Egypt has been a center of that west activity. South Africa, which is coming to birth because it had been through apartheid, so it was late to the party. They were defensive about South Africa. Then you have east, you have Kenya, and west, you have Nigeria. So those are the points that they feel they can conquer the 1.4 billion Africans, including North Africa, because we are 1.4 billion, right? That is how they look at managing, whether it is marketing their goods, marketing their democracy, marketing their intelligence, marketing their foreign policy. That's how they look at Africa. If you can get into those 4 points, you get into the rest of the continent. Kenya has a spiritual ethos. There's something very spiritual about this land, whether you want to call it the cradle of mankind, or you want to go back to a lot of mythology that has been there, that brings them continually back. The third is that we are organized. There are very few countries you'll find on this continent that are as organized as we are. We have structures for nearly everything that we do. We have institutional capacity. We have a work ethic. So it's very easy, right? We are like them, maybe behind in many ways, maybe not as efficient, but we are very similar to them. Because of our color, it's not only the color, it's that your mentality has always been, we rise or keep up there as long as the African is down. Because that's a colonial mentality that was put here many years ago. That as long as they are getting cheap labor, they are getting cheap goods from this continent, their standard of living is guaranteed because they mark it up outside of here. So if you look at tea, which they came to plant here, and coffee, what they gave the laborer here was peanuts in comparison to what they traded it for. And that's the method that they understood. We are slave labor. We were exported to America as slaves. We are slave labor. And they've been unable to emancipate their minds to the fact that we can sit on a table equally or even above them. And that's the problem. That every single Singaporean, without fail, that the only reason you do not benefit from this national pie called Singapore is if you are lazy. But if you're prepared to step out, you are going to grow. You're going to grow. And even those that are lazy, you will never still be hungry. And he said, I don't care about political rights. Don't tell me about this or that. In fact, if you work and it takes discipline.
It's 30 million.
Oh, is it 30 million? That's not why you're working. Is that why you're working?
No.
Right. That is where this game changes. Right? About this thing called economic rights. The bakers of the cake. And just like the struggle for political rights, don't be fooled. This one is also going to be a war. And it is a war. It will not end today or tomorrow, but it will end. Right? Because we are so emancipated politically that it's very easy, this thing of baking the cake. And this is where now you get ideology. Right? Who are we?
Good. On the who are we, Jimmy, who are you? Because there are people who can't quite trace who you are. And I believe for you, you see, like in America, when maybe someone like Biden nominates judges, they sit in Senate and people ask them questions, right? One of the things that has been said about you is you are the man who helped in the Uhuru Ruto win. You helped Raila Odinga's you are this man who is always behind doing so many things to make other people win. And the reason I'm asking you this, it's because there's that assumption in the country that the leaders we have, the presidents, all these people at those high tables are puppets. There is a cartel behind the scene making all decisions, making all these, you know, who are actually telling them what to do. So if our audience were to understand, who are you, so that we see, can we trust this person that you say you are? Who are you?
I'll tell you, Lynn, politically, I'm a real revolutionary. When I got back from Canada, I came back here when there was the advent of multipartyism. And one of my greatest teachers, apart from my father, was a man called Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba, who at the time was fighting for the second liberation. And for reasons, because I knew him as Uncle Ken. From when I was very young, he had a soft spot for me. And for reasons better known to him, even as he went out, he had this thing of, Jimmy, I want Jimmy around me.
Yes.
I want Jimmy around me. I want Jimmy around me. It was very touching when he died, and I went to the house, and on his mantle, on the fireplace in his sitting room, on the mantle, apart from his children that he had photos of when they were married, I'm the only one outside of the family that he had a photo of, that he attended my wedding. So we had that connection. And Kenneth Matiba was a wealthy man. Yes, behind the scenes, because a lot of these people are our friends. We have known them. If we had known them during the second liberation, Raila Amolo Odinga, for example, I knew him through that exercise of 1990, 1991. I even hid him at one point. He even came to my office, and I had to drive him out when Special Branch were looking for him. The NIS was called Special Branch in those days, looking for him, and I had to drive him to a place here in Runda, where we dressed him like a preacher, okay? Then took him to Mountain View, where he had a sister. We got a Catholic sister and a driver who took him from Nairobi all the way to Kisumu and across the border, because Moi wanted to detain him again after the second detention that he had done with Matiba. So I knew Raila those days, the Jim Orengos those days, the Paul Muites, the heroes, the young thugs of those days. Kibaki I grew up with. I was in school with his children. So we had a lot of friends. So come 2007, it was not hard for us to call people to a room and find a way forward. 2013 was, to me, a historical moment for Kenya. We had a new constitution. We had a new generation seeking power. Remember the phrase we used, digital versus analog? Yes. We were breaking away to now my generation from our father's generation. Right? You had also two warring communities that were being put together, so we had an opportunity to cleanse that fight and to cleanse tribalism.
Yes.
Right? And these were two friends. I had a lot to do with it, but they're the ones who approached me to help them. I didn't approach them.
So you're not the cartel behind?
No. I did not seek them. They sought me, believing that I would help them out of their problem called ICC. Because I had warned them that the Mzungus are going to finish them, and they didn't believe me. I said, let us do a Alago tribunal. Nobody wanted to hear. So when it came, they came rushing. Right? And we laid the path to their victory, because had they not succeeded, they would have been incarcerated in the ICC, both of them. I can tell you that today. Kenyans saved them. And my covenant with them was very simple. If Kenyans save you, you have no choice but to make reparations, repent to the Almighty, and say, you just break it down to business. But what do you call these Mzungus who end up controlling a president like we are seeing today here with Ruto? What do you call them? Neo-colonialists? Are they not cartels also?
How is he being controlled by Wazungus?
But we can clearly see
Ebu, tell us.
I think the biggest influence to this man's existence is a lady called Whitman, the American ambassador. If you want an appointment with Ruto, don't even go anywhere else, go to Whitman. She will call him and he will even come to her house. So why is she controlling him more than us who are Kenyans? Take the money, because inflation is a consequence of too much money chasing too few goods.
Yes.
So you sap the money, raise interest rates, cash ratio for banks. So you remove the money. But as you remove the money, remember we have recession. Recession means no growth, negative growth. All right? So now we've stopped growing. Now you hasten it when you've removed the money. Because now you have no access for money. You can't do biashara.
Yes.
Right? Whatever it is you're selling, nobody can buy. They have no cash. So now prices are down in some things, but everyone is complaining about no money, correct? Everyone has no money.
Wow.
So that is recession.
Yes. So you
Okay?
have inflation.
And the only way
Yeah.
you cure those two twin evils is to reduce taxation. You reduce taxation, he has a problem with debt payments. So he couldn't do it. He has to come and raise.
Yes.
Now he's been forced to reduce
Taxation.
because of the law.
Yeah.
All right? So what do you think he's going to do with debt payments?
Default.
Yes. So I'm not advertising doom. It's reality.
Do you think foreign investors have sensed this? Is that why some people like Mobius are pulling out?
No, Mobius is collapsed. That's insolvent.
Yeah.
It's a consequence of recession. When nobody is buying your things, you become insolvent and you can't pay your debts.
Do you think our environment is friendly for foreign investors?
Of course not. We are a country headed to default. What happens is that you wait until we default, everything collapses. So if you have property like this nice property, in Ghana today, to scare you a bit more, in Ghana today, okay, people are selling their property for 10% of what it's worth to put food on the table for their families. Yeah, and there are no takers. Just to tell you how bad it gets. But pain has a unifying positive. Right? We are all unified in this pain. Right? The ones that are not unified in this pain are the ones we are seeing up there.
Blind to the fact that people can protest with no one funding them.
They're completely blind to that. But, let me add, Lynn, that I can fund. I have, in fact, when it began, I gave money towards people who are being arrested. Right? And I was very public about it. Right? I sent a little money for people who needed bail. Okay? Anybody, in fact, many people are funding. They are funding water. They are funding toothpastes for tear gas.
Yes.
Right? I know people who've donated blood. I even went to give blood. They told me I'm too old to give blood. I'm over 50 years old. They can't take my blood. People are giving their blood.
Yeah, masks.
Kwani, is it illegal? In fact, if I had all the money, I would give them money to go out there and do it. Like yesterday. Why not? Yes. How many people are there? If I could pay them 10,000 shillings each to go out and do it, I would do it. Yes. What's wrong with it? Nothing. It is in our constitution.
Yes.
So what is it? If you want to come and ask me for funding, I'll ask you why you're asking. An illegality, get the hell out of my office or my home, wherever you are. If they think I'm funding, what is the crime? Arrest me for what? Come like yesterday. Kujeni kama jana. There's nothing we have not been through. Who William Ruto arrest me for doing what? Funding Gen Z. Oh my God. Aje kama jana. That is nonsense. This man is a man who should be worrying about his exit. All right? His exit, Lynn, he is choosing. When you are killing people, you are choosing your exit, how it is going to be. He's choosing every day how his exit is going to be. All right? Because for every child you're killing, there's a mother crying. And I can tell you, in all my history, the tears of a mother on their child and the curses that come from that, you will see dust you've never seen. He's choosing his exit, but he's going. I also believe he will go before the next general election.
You
I don't know why
believe he'll
people are talking
survive the
about
term?
No, he will not. I do not see 2027. I do not. In the next few months, he will not even have a budget presenting them. And if you want to read something, it's called People's Choice Theory, which is Article 1 of our Constitution. The people can exercise directly or indirectly. When they step there, they indicted Parliament. So there's no way we can trust Wetangula to an election process, even though it says 60 days. This is something that you need consensus on as a nation, right? Because all we need is an IEBC. If we can't get an IEBC, even the UN has got an agency that does elections. It's done it in conflict places, right? We just need a transition, because we need a transition to a general election, because as you can see, some of the Gen Zs are complaining about governors and MCAs. So this is a general election, right? So you need a transition towards that, okay? And some modicum of running of government, because you still have challenges, whether it's security, whether it's money challenges, you still need a modicum. So people need to have a consensus that we have a target, let us say, next August. And say next August, we're going to have a general election, right? And this transition group, right, will head the government to see that transition. There'll be a consensus because people see a target.
Yeah.
And everyone knows within this period, now go and get your voters roll, go and get your voters cards on. I'm sure Gen Z this time watachukua kura kama kitu kingine.
Yes.
Right?
And
you will see
process.
a total, let me tell you, in that general election,
yeah,
I will be surprised if even one person survives that is currently there. It will be a total wipeout.
You don't have a favorite one there?
What for?
You?
No.
No one you're vouching for?
Of course not. Everyone should go. Everybody should go. They are all relics of the past. They do not understand the period going forward.
Yes.
So they should get out of our way. All right?
Our way.
Our way. So, on the basis of that,
yeah,
okay,
yes,
you will have a modicum of peace and calm. No matter what crisis comes, people will know it's coming to an end at a specific date. So there are ways of doing this.
Yes.
All right? And it will happen. You know, Lynn, you remember that I said it on this show. When it starts, you say, oh yeah. I remember in Mombasa, late last year, I stood up at a forum. We had gone to talk about SGR. They had wanted me to talk about SGR because it has affected the economy.
Yes.
So I stood up, and one of the questions that was put to me was that you guys have just been talking, right? All this talk, all this, at the end, nothing happens. So I got up, I said, what's wrong with you guys? Why do you rely on politicians or leaders? There's going to be a revolution here. And you guys are going to be part of it. And it will come. Because just as you're feeling that pain and hopelessness, it will come. And everybody was very shocked. In January, I said it at a funeral in Kikuyu, where I gave Ruto 3 months. Otherwise, he's going to see Chemtemakuni. In fact, Ichungwa was in that funeral, right? And people were asking me, what are you talking about? Kenyans will never revolt because of this planned poverty. See, everybody is in a condition. Yeah. Nobody will come up. So it has come.
It's here.
So I'm now telling you that you're going to see what you call a modicum of a transition government that will be transiting, right, to an election date because William Ruto will be resigning. You understand? He's resigning and his government will be resigning. No, it is coming. And that period will be a great period for us.
Yeah.
Because then we'll know the power that we have as a people of a country. That we can actually, there's no king up there, you can bring them down, right? And those who are there realize they are not kings, they are servants.
Yes.
Your protection are not guns, it's the people.
It's the people. Do you believe in the role of opposition? Do you think?
100%. 100%. There must be very good, vibrant opposition.
Do we have that right now?
No, of course not.
Yes.
Of course not. But which opposition were you expecting? From the House?
From Raila.
No. It goes like this.
Yeah.
And it's very sad to say this. What does a member of parliament really look for when he goes into that house? He's a man who has spent money to get to parliament. He gets in there. His salary, the first thing they do with their salary is to get loans for 2 houses. So he has no salary. So he looks at his per diem, his fuel or sitting allowances in committees to make ends meet so that he can go to the constituency every weekend. But the main thing he looks for is CDF, because that can not only take a project to the ground, but also give him something for his re-election in 5 years, because he's going to come back and going to need money. Which opposition is that guy going to be? Because once the government starts doing this event to that CDF, how does he operate? So we have had a false narrative that there's an opposition. In reality, no matter what you see there as the opposing, there's always a deal, an agreement somewhere on the way it moves forward. Okay? So we've had a false narrative, right? Why? Because just like the judiciary, when that was envisaged in the new constitution, the judiciary is supposed to have its fund. Parliament, its fund. Not the executive controlling those funds. That has never happened. So the independence is a figment of our imagination, not reality. The other is parties. You're talking about Raila. So as long as ODM, as long as he's okay, then ODM will vote how? Correct? Correct? So we have a problem. It can't be based on personalities. It must be based on real issues. That's why I'm saying we're getting to ideological politics. So you know, Lynn, right, that when my supporters are hearing me speak, I'm a capitalist. When, Lynn, you're speaking, you're a Marxist, you're a communist, right? And when we're in parliament, there's no way you and I, our ideology can come together.
No.
Right? No. There's no middle ground, there's nothing. I know my people are saying capitalism.
Yes.
We are not sharing our loot. Okay? We don't even believe in social democracy, for example. We are pure capitalists. You're telling me to share? No. Right? So there's no matchup between us because it's ideological. This one is not ideological. When you see Republicans and Democrats fight, it's because it's ideological. Labour and Conservative government in the UK, ideological. So you never meet here. But here now we are talking about personalities. There's no opposition. This is what the birth of ideology comes to, and pain brings that. When it's ideological, you tell me to sit with a communist?
No.
I say, no. Apana, those people want free things. Yeah, I know how to work. I'm not giving my sweat to people who want free things. And the ones who are free are saying, no, you've had advantages, right? The country is a country, share this thing. Okay? We will never match. Ideological. That's true opposition. What we've had here is just a figment of our imagination. We create it, the media creates it, they create it for our entertainment. But the reality is there's no real opposition. There isn't.
But times are changing.
Look in 2022. Ruto talked about distributing. Mama mboga utapata hii, utapata hii, utapata hii. Correct? Distribution. Raila talked about distribution. He said, I'll give you 6,000 shillings when you sleep in the house. It's all distribution. What was the opposition? Who told you where they are going to create from? Did anybody say how they were not going to create? Did they?
No.
So we receive and distribute. What is the difference? Nobody told you how they create? No. Did anybody tell you how they help you create?
No. Even now.
That's what we went to vote for. Correct.
Anyways, thank you so much. I know we've learned a thing or two, but before I let you go, maybe to people who really watch and admire you or even, criticize you, anyone that's going to watch this show, what would that parting shot look like? Maybe looking at this camera.
I want Kenyans to appreciate their greatness. And I say greatness because we are a great people. And our greatness is yet to be seen by the world, but it is coming. Let nobody take you to think about basic things like just your food. If you're being disenfranchised, know that there is a system that is disenfranchising you. You yourself are great, and that is soon coming. You shall fulfill that greatness in your lifetime. That's what I want people to feel. Okay. We are going to get back to a country where we feel good about who we are, where we feel good about our government and what this nation represents. That is coming. Yeah.
And to you, Ruto?
Ruto must go like yesterday.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jimi Wanjigi right there. I'm going to see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Leave me your feedback on the comment section. To another guys, leave me your feedback on the comment section. Asante sana for
God
coming.
bless you.
Looking forward to
Thank
having other thought-provoking conversations with you.
Asante.
And also, again, shukran for
Thank
taking
you so much,
your time.
Lynn. It was great to be here.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Nice conversation.